and gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for the first time together, the stars of the show, your drives and teams for this season. This is the class of F175.
Welcome to a very special edition of Stop the Lights with Olivia and Ciarán. We are here to talk about the special event, first time ever, that F1 has taken over the O2 in London for their F175 season launch event. How are you doing, Ciarán?
I am absolutely wrecked. 2 hours of my life that I'm not too sure I'm ever going to get back again. Like, I'm not going to be overly negative, but oh my God, it was a long event yesterday. It was long.
Yeah, and it actually seemed that like certain teams were definitely given longer than others when it came time for their own little like personal showcase. But we can get into the nitty-gritty of it in a minute. But overall, like in the build up to the event, we were both kind of skeptical because this went from being like the actual car launches to just a livery launch, and then a bunch of random musicians were thrown in to kind of bulk it up a little bit, or at least that's how it came across
Yeah.
to a lot of fans. So for you, after being quite, negative going into it, overall, were you surprised by anything, or what was your general feeling aside from just being wrecked afterwards?
I actually think it actually looked great, right? So that's a positive for me. It looked really cool. I've been in that O2 arena twice now for wrestling shows, and it's a really good arena. There is no bad seat in the arena either, and I liked how they utilized the kind of big long stage. It's always a pity, obviously, when a Formula One car doesn't drive, and it's pushed or wheeled or dropped down or lifted up. I think that's included everything they've done to a Formula One car yesterday. But it looked great for me. Actually, I gotta say, Jack Whitehall for me did quite a good job at keeping it very light. I kind of like the way that he wasn't actually the one interviewing any of the drivers or teams, and he said that himself. We have these three people who know a lot about Formula One. Some of his jokes maybe didn't land all of the time, but I thought from the very start to the very end, he hosted the event very well, and it looked good. And look, it got me excited for testing next week, and then obviously the race then in the middle of March as well. So overall, I think it looked good. It grabbed my attention. Bit long. What was your kind of overall first impressions of F175?
Yeah, I was kind of like, I will say I was just personally, because I'm not a massive fan of his music, I was a bit disappointed that it was Machine Gun Kelly that opened the show.
Yeah.
But I was like, look, his music may not be my thing, but he did put on a good performance. Like, it was very eye-catching and it was a good opener. So I was a bit like, okay, let's see what we have going on here. But like yourself, like, at first I was a bit like, why Jack Whitehall as host? It just in my head didn't match up. But then having now seen it, it was done in a very similar style to how the Brits are done.
Yeah.
And he does a very good job at hosting the Brits. So clearly they kind of thought that it would marry together in that weird way. So yeah, instead of giving out like music awards, they were talking F1 cars.
Yeah,
and that was literally kind of like the main difference to it. So for me, yeah, again, thought he did a good job. I liked that they actually had, say, professional Formula One experts doing the actual technical stuff, and then him doing the kind of fun, fluffy stuff for the people who were watching with their partner, who is the obsessive kind of thing.
Yeah,
So there was a little bit of something for everybody. I loved all of the behind the scenes kind of stuff that was being shared online, like people catching Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc playing chess, digital chess on their phones as the show actually went on. So I thought that was quite humorous, and I just sort of seen that like everyone had a little bit of fun, but there was a lot of discussions during and afterwards about the show itself. One of them, which you and I were definitely speculating over, was why didn't we hear from the world champion driver Max Verstappen?
We were pretty much watching at the same time, and then I was like, oh my God, there's no speeches from Liam Lawson or Max Verstappen. And I was pretty much raging at this, to be fair. I think I was sending voice notes to you. I was like screaming about it, being like, how have we not heard from the world champion? Every other team had a little interview segment with the team principal and the drivers. We heard from Christian Horner, kind of. He didn't say anything. He just kind of welcomed everybody and introduced the team. But we didn't hear from Max or Liam. Like, Liam Lawson's his first big event, and we didn't hear from him. This stinks of Max Verstappen didn't want to speak. I know you have a different theory and a different opinion on it.
So my initial theory, because it just sort of seemed like as we went on, after the Alpine
Debacle.
showcase, which went
Horrible.
on for flipping ever, I got the feeling that everyone after that got like a little bit less time kind of thing. Like, yes, we got to hear from the Aston Martins, but like not really that much. We didn't get to hear that much from like quite a few of the groups. So in my head, I was like, I feel like they're short on time. So it gave me the impression, and my mum was actually the one that pointed this out, is that the Red Bull intro video was very, very long, and they kept cutting back to the main arena in the middle of it. So we didn't really actually get to get the full experience of seeing the video in its entirety as it was like intended to be shown to an at-home audience, because they kept chopping and changing. So we were wondering, were they cutting back to the arena because they thought that the video was ending, or that they were going to cut it early to bring them out so they could do the talk because they were short on time? Because when you think about it, they finished up 5 minutes late. So they still ran over time, even without having this chat with the current world champion driver. So I got the feeling that it was probably a case of they were told, you either show the entire video or you have the chats with the drivers, and I'd say they opted for show the entire video. That's kind of the impression I got. But what's really interesting is that there's a load of talk online. I don't know if you saw this. A couple of chats on Reddit, a couple of threads on Threads and X and the likes. People are suspecting that the FIA made the call, that they didn't want Max Verstappen to speak in case he said something or cursed or did something bold, and that's why there was no talk from Red Bull. Also, the fact that every time anything Red Bull was mentioned, there was boos coming out throughout the crowd. And in all honesty, like, why would you want to A, put them through that, and B, give the audience what they want? Make sure you have enough time to give McLaren the spotlight and also Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It just is so weird to have nine teams with 9 drivers, 18 drivers speaking, and 2 not. It's weird. It's very strange. And I'm assuming every team was responsible for their showcase, because like they were all, even though they were all ridiculously similar, they were different and they had different approaches and they had different things. Like even Mercedes, God love them, messed up a fake pit stop when they were wheeling out the car. So I mean,
I believe my text message to you was, "Oh, bless them! Look at them using this opportunity to practice their pit stops, and they still messed it up."
I was like, are you kidding me with this? There was a lot of booing. I thought there was more booing of Max Verstappen than you did. My very first reaction was, oh, the boos in the O2. Look, it's I suppose primarily a British audience in London that were there. The 4 fans who were able to get themselves hands on tickets for this actual event. They made their feelings shown towards Max. I suppose, look, they're probably Lewis Hamilton fans. Okay, I get it, I understand it. Red Bull was booed, but the biggest boo of the night was reserved for when Formula One thought it'd be a good idea to thank the FIA. And the girl that was actually introducing and saying thank you to the FIA, she even laughed in the middle of her sentence because the boos were that loud. That's a little bit of a tone deaf thing, I think, from Formula One.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like the FIA is still the governing body who are running the show. So of course they're going to have to thank them. There was even a few like awkward murmurs when Bernie Ecclestone was mentioned, but without Bernie Ecclestone, there would be no F1. So you have to kind of, I think people are just very reactionary these days. And I think when you look at these events logically, like, look, they're not under any disillusion that they are liked. They know that everybody hates them. So it's not like they're going into this being like, everybody loves us. Oh my God, we're a Delulu. Like they know what they're getting into. But I think that like people booing and whatnot, it's like it does get a bit panto-y. Now, yes,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
people will lean into that, others will not. The one that actually surprised me the most, I don't know if you caught it, but there was some light booing for Lance Stroll.
Oh, I didn't catch that, but that makes sense to me. The Stroll thing, because his dad is just so, like, what appears to be universally hated by most people.
Yeah, and I think it's also a case of because Stroll just does not have the track record
Yeah.
to justify why he still has a seat. Like there have been drivers that have come and gone with better track records and he still has a seat. And I think a lot of people are a bit kind of like, dude, you need to see the writing on the wall. Yes, you were fantastic in your recovery and making sure you got back into the car after your accident that time, but just because you heal quick doesn't mean you're going to be quick on track.
Exactly, 100%. Shall we talk about the actual liveries? I think it was quite funny when Jack Whitehall said we're having a massive event and all the liveries are pretty much the same. In fairness to the teams, there was quite a lot of different liveries. Red Bull probably really being the only one, and Mercedes that were kind of similar to last year. Let's start though with probably actually my second favourite, if not nearly favourite livery of the whole lot, was the first one, Stake F1. First of all, though, they didn't really show us the car for a good, 5 minutes. There was people surrounding the car, and I was like, what is happening? It didn't set me up for a good night when I was like, are they just going to do this for every single one? Where they have people lining either side of the stage, and I can't see the car. Show me the car. I don't care about people playing the drums. So I was kind of angry at that, but they did eventually move and revealed a lovely, gorgeous green fade into black towards the back of the car. Nice luminous green. I have realised I'm very much like the big poppy colours. That was something I realised yesterday, and didn't really know that was me, but it is. I love this car. It looks lovely. The wheel covers are good. There's 2 green ones on the front and there's 2 black ones on the back. It's a stunning car for me.
I quite liked it as well, and I think because it was also the first one out the gate that this was like, okay, we don't know still what this event is actually going to look like. So there was a lot riding on
Yes.
their intro because it was going to let everybody know how all of the other teams were probably going to do it as well. I like the car. I think it looks great. I liked the race suits as well. I was disappointed that nobody made a joke about Hulkenberg being in green at last because he is referred to as the Hulk. But something that I did see online being discussed as well was for their intro video. I don't know whether you picked up on it, but for me, I was kind of looking at it being like, I can't tell if this is, animated or computer generated, or is it AI generated? And there's a lot of people suspecting that it was AI generated because there was a few little details in there that people have caught to say, we don't think that this looks right. So maybe either somebody who did make it made a little whoopsie, or was it a case of that they used AI to generate it? So people, because of course AI is such a touchy subject
Yeah,
in
of
the
course.
fact that in a lot of cases it is kind of taking people's jobs, or at least there are some companies that are trying to utilize it in a way to basically save money on workforces. So I think there may need to be some sort of clarification as to whether or not AI was used as a tool in the making of it, with a human still working on it behind the scenes, or if it was just completely generated by AI. From what I saw, I didn't think it was computer generated. I actually thought it was more animated than computer generated, or AI generated rather. So I personally think that maybe if there was a tool used, it was in minuscule form, maybe for certain clips, but overall, I just thought it was more animated than AI generated.
Yeah, that makes sense, to be fair. That makes sense. That's Stake F1. We probably talked a bit more about Stake F1 than I thought we were going to. I think Williams were next, and we got to see Carlos Sainz in blue, kind of. Their race suits were more white, and actually, I thought they
I'm sorry,
looked
the
very
race
slick.
suits are more white. The race suits are completely white with the blue stripe down the side.
They are.
There's hardly any blue on it.
They are.
So everyone's been like, we can't wait to see Carlos in blue. Yeah, the car is blue. He's in bloody white.
It's totally in white. Look, they look slick, to be fair. Actually, I was surprised when it came out. What do you think of the actual Williams car? It's nice. My funniest thing though is when you pointed out the Duracell battery on the top of the Williams car, and I was like, they've had that for a year or two now at this point. But it does.
But
it
have
is
they?
nice.
Because I looked back at
Yeah.
pictures and I couldn't see it.
They have, yeah. It's I like the blue for Williams. The new sponsor is a very prominent on it. It is right on the side and right on the wing as well. We'll talk more about sponsors when we get to Ferrari, I think. But yeah, like it's a nice blue car. It's actually a much lighter Williams blue, I think, than we've seen in the past, especially near the back of the car.
Yeah, like it's not quite the navy that they'd been adopting over the last few years. Yeah, no, I like the color blue, and I just sort of think it's just a really nice shade, so it's quite eye-catching. I think as I was praising it, I just uttered the phrase to you, I like blue.
Yes, you did.
Which, because I do. So yeah, for me, it's like it's a very pretty looking car, but we'll have to wait and see what it's like on track.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, on Carlos Sainz, were you disappointed he didn't start singing "Smooth Operator" because he toyed with the idea? I think.
Why would you toy with us and then not give us at least a line of it? You know what I mean? And he was swinging his helmet around. I thought he was going to go straight into it. I think the host could have pushed him. But Carlos, give us a line, and it would have been a great moment for him as well. I would have loved it.
I think so. Like, imagine the crowd just joining in with "Smooth Operator."
It would have been so good.
V-Carb were next, and this is the one where literally the minute the car was unveiled, the text message from you to me was, I hate it. I hate it. Like, this was not the car I was expecting you to have such a visceral reaction to.
So this car is nearly entirely all white, and it literally looks like they have forgot to paint it. I actually hate it. I actually think it's the worst car I've ever seen. It's like a little test Formula 1 car that you'd see. There's little like blue Red Bull logos towards the back that I think look absolutely tacky. They look like cockroaches on the car, and then the big Red Bull thing on the top. I hate it. I hate everything about this car. It was absolutely awful. I think they had the best video though. I thought it was very funny. They were leaning into the fact that nobody knows what the hell their name is. That was kind of funny. But apart from that, like, yeah, not liking this car.
Yeah, I think kind of like for me, I just love Munya Chihuahua, so I was kind of more like, yay, Munya. The car, it's fine. Again, it's gonna. I think because another of the teams is so well known for being the white car that it may take brains a little while to adjust to be like, oh yeah, that's the Visa Cash app. Red Bulls, is it?
Racing Bulls.
Racing Bulls. There we go. I knew it wasn't red. Well, yeah, because the car is not barely red as well. So why would it be a Red Bull? But yes, the car is fine. Like, I do see what you mean by like it looks like they forgot to paint it though.
It's so boring. It's just, and you know what else is going? This is just going to sound very Irish mammy now. It's going to get filthy on the track. It's going to show up all the dirt.
Well, especially like if it keeps going off track, which it probably will.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, yeah, it might do. Okay, who was next? I cannot for the life of me remember.
That would be Haas.
Oh yes, Haas. What do you make of the Haas car?
It's got more black on it, so it is actually not as white as we were expecting it to be because, as I mentioned earlier, they're like Haas have actually been the team that have been notoriously the white car.
Yes.
But it does have more black, more red. I thought it was lovely that Ollie Berman got a little like shout out to the crowd and things like that because
he looks about 4.
He does. He looks like such a little baby.
Such a little baby. Like, and actually, a lot of these Formula 1 drivers, you go, oh my God, these are very, very young men. Very, very young men. So, like, it's like,
I think what's funny, though, is like between him and like Kimi Antonelli, who, by the way, I didn't actually know that the two of them were teammates in F2. And it's the first time now that teammates have actually made the leap to F1 at the same time.
Oh.
But like, even with them like standing next to each other, Kimi looks 10 and Ollie looks about 14, 15 just purely because of the height difference.
It's a fine car. I think I'd prefer if this car was like just red and black with a tiny bit of white on the top, but that's probably never going to happen from Haas.
I'd say like purely because of the Ferrari being known for being so red, I'd say there's a limit to how much red they can put on the car. Yes, they do have some affiliation with Ferrari, if I am not mistaken. But because like wasn't it at one time that Haas was using like a Ferrari engine?
Yeah, I think so.
Was that...
No, I think that was Haas. Yeah, I like their race suits though. Their race suits are primarily black with a bit of red, and they're very, very sleek. I like.
They were very slick. Yeah.
Okay, now controversial time. So Alpine were the next team and they came out, and my first opinion of this car was, oh, it's blue. The very same time you text me saying, oh, it's pink. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's primarily blue. And arguments ensued from there. I think this car is more blue. The main chassis is blue. The top of the car is blue. There's pink on the front wing and back wing. But I would say that this car is primarily a blue car.
So I would say that when you actually look at every single angle of the car, and like this is me with like fresh eyes, having had some sleep, it is 50-50 pink and blue, and it does depend on what angle you're looking at it at. That will determine how much of each of the colors you see. So the angle that I was looking at when I text you that first message to be like, oh, it's so pink, it was front on. So all you could see was the wing, the front of the nose. There's pink lining on the it's not the front suspension, but it's like where they hook on the tires, not the actual like nuts and bolts of it. There's like a little cover that goes out over them. There's a bit of like a pink line there. You've also got like the rear wing. There's like the rear flappy bits by the tires as well. They're also pink. So from a front on angle, the car is pink. Then when you look at the side angle, that's where the blue gets incorporated in. So you only really see the blue when you look at it from the side. So when the car's on the track, yes, you're primarily going to be shot from the side unless they're coming down a straight or doing an overtake maneuver or whatever. So again, if it's on a straight, it's going to look pink, and if it's just doing like a chicane, it's going to look blue.
Yeah, in fairness, like there is a lot of when you see the front on shot of the wing and the halo all in pink, and the front, it is primarily a pink looking car. Okay, then it was time for Aston Martin.
Oh, hang on, we haven't mentioned the DJ.
Oh my god, I had put him to the back of my mind because it was so mind-numbingly boring. First of all, his hair is ridiculous. It's all over his face. He wasn't doing anything, I am assured.
Yeah, it went on for far too long. And even then, like, there was a moment where he went and he was like reacting as if there was like this massive like beat drop about to happen, and then it was like a slowdown. It's like, oh, instead of like jumping up and down, you're kind of just going, oh, I'm just going to sit back down and just wait for this to be over now. It just went on for so long that people were wondering, was there a problem backstage?
Yeah, exactly.
That is how bad that was. Yes, he didn't look like he was DJing much at all.
No.
And yeah, even with the hair falling into his face, he still had like half of it tied up in a little man bun. So
that was a good spot by you. That was a good spot. The man bun.
yeah, I'm allergic to man buns. I'm allergic to man buns, so I'll always kind of spot them just to make sure I stay far away. But I think it's important to mention that because this did go on for so long, and then it was after this one that every other team just seemed to have like less time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It was too long. It was too long. Aston Martin was next, and for me, they had the best video package. I just liked the fact that we got to see a lot of their old classic racing and some road cars in there as well. Their livery, I mean, they haven't really strayed too far away from what they've done in the past. A bit more black, maybe, perhaps, in this car. But you're primarily getting that lovely Aston Martin green that we've been known to become accustomed to. The back wing is in a kind of a fadey green into a black blue kind of thing going on as well. But overall, pretty standard Aston Martin car, I would have said.
Yeah, it is. And actually, I was even thinking of this last night that it almost reminded me of one of the old Jaguar cars.
Yes,
back
great
when
shout.
Jaguar were a team.
Great shout.
So like, it's almost kind of like nostalgic as well. But I agree with you. I think they had the best sort of video package. I thought the boys coming out in their suits and racing helmets was a funny nod because it was a continuity from the video. I loved how they incorporated James Bond because, of course, Aston Martin and James Bond go hand in hand. But overall, yeah, I thought it was great. And I loved how Fernando Alonso was just like, let's just get the show on the road. Let's go. Let's get driving.
That's so good.
It's like, I think a lot of people were feeling that way too.
And actually, the Formula One and Aston Martin, they collabed in like a little reel, and they changed the video into black and white for the end of it. Like when they're coming down the stairs, it's top tier, I have to say. I liked this. And Fernando Alonso is an attractive man. His hair has been Pantene all over the place. It is gorgeous. He could be in any type of hair commercial with that hair. It's absolutely stunning.
I was going to say another person with nice hair is Toto Wolff, who of course was next with with the Mercedes, who, again, look, we've already touched on it. They messed up their opening with the pretend pit stop and tire change. And overall, the car, look, does it have a little bit more silver to it? But they stayed with the sort of black motif and the teal on the sides. Toto had a matching teal watch, which I thought was quite cute. The lads are in their black race suits with a little bit of teal down the sides. Like, not like they're not like, they always say it's like, oh, like, why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what they've done here.
I remember Toto saying before that the black paint was lighter, slightly lighter than the silver paint. So when they went to the black car, slightly went back to the silver arrows and back to black again. He said the black is actually slightly lighter. So there's only there isn't that much silver on this car. What the front nose and the wing, and that's about it. But apart from that, look, very standard Mercedes car. I expected nothing else. It's a sleek looking car. Yeah, why change it?
Yeah, exactly. And the same can be said for the Red Bulls. The Red Bull came out, and I was actually like, what is different? I could not tell
nothing.
anything that was massively different. Maybe the rear wing is a slightly different shape. That was kind of the only thing that I was kind of noticing. But overall, nothing. Like, it still looks like a great car. It probably will be a great car, just knowing the history of Red Bull racing.
Red Bull is such a big brand, and a brand everywhere. Like, anything Red Bull do, it's this color scheme. So it's a brand that ties in everywhere. So they were never and they are never going to do anything different. Like, when you see all their cars when they do stuff back at the factory and they have all their cars laid out in that big giant kind of auditorium that they have, all the cars, apart from the shape of the cars, all look very similar because they're all in that color scheme. And you know what? I'm not a Red Bull fan, but they have got a good color scheme. It works. It works for them.
They've got good brand awareness, I think.
Yes, exactly.
Similarly to, look, I know you don't like the color, but Ferrari are known for being the red team, and while they may change the shade every now and again, they have a brand, they know what they're doing, and they tend to stick as close to it as possible every year. But this year, the car does look a little bit different, and you absolutely hate it.
So, look, okay, like, it's much, much darker, and you only get to see how much darker the car is beside last year's car. They did a comparison on the F1 Instagram. It is so, so dark. But also, I think they might have a sponsor called HP, because it's slightly on their car. It's on both sides of the front wing. It is on both those tire and covers on the front. It is on the main chassis at the back, and it is on the rear wing as well. And sorry, it's also on the halo. It is HP everywhere. They have ruined this car with the HP at the back in all white. It looks absolutely dreadful. I think this is one of the worst Ferrari cars I have ever seen.
And what's funny is that on our Stop the Lights podcast Instagram page, it was the highest rated fan reaction. So it is the livery that people loved the most. But we also actually got a voice note from one of our fans, which I'm going to play for you now, from Emma. This is what she thought of the Ferrari car.
As a Ferrari fan, I have to say that I really hate Lewis in red. Not to say that I'm not excited for him to drive for us, but I just can't get behind it. Like, it's so jarring. And I'd be inclined to agree with Ciarán that I do not like the white stripe on the red car.
Oh my God, Emma, what a legend she is, agreeing with me, and she's a Ferrari fan. You see, this is what's going to happen here. Lewis Hamilton is a divisive character. So, like, if you didn't like Lewis Hamilton before, you're not going to like him just because he's driving for Ferrari.
Yeah, and like me, look, we all know I'm not his biggest fan. I find it quite entertaining seeing him in the red. I find it quite entertaining to see the fan reactions and, like, people just not being able to get on board with him driving for Ferrari now. So for me, I'm kind of just sitting back with the popcorn, just being like, oh, this season's going to be gas crack.
It was crazy seeing him in the red, though, isn't it? It's mad seeing Lewis Hamilton in a red Ferrari jumpsuit. It's crazy. It really is. It's mad, like.
Yeah, it is totally mind-blowing. And of course, look, they did it all in reverse order from the Constructors' Championship last year. So last but not least was McLaren, who very close second for best presentation, because they brought out all of their cars from, like, the years of old. So we had, like, the Ayrton Senna era, we had Mika Hakkinen, we had the kind of like Hamilton Button years, And of course, we had the new papaya car. Controversially, a lot of people not liking the chrome detailing on it.
They've probably overdone the black. Just, we like the orange. Can you please go back to the papaya orange? I would love this car to be in all kind of papaya orange. It's a lot of, the chrome detailing in the back is not great. The more I look at this car, the more I really don't like it. Because of we get the majority of the shots we see of this car are going to be of the side, like we said before, and you're just going to see kind of a lot of that black with very little of the papaya.
Yeah, which is just leaning more and more into the fact that you just love neon colors.
Yeah, what is that? Like, this is a new thing for me. I never would have thought I would have liked neon colors. I did lose my shit at the Mika Hakkinen car. I was like, oh my god! I remember, and then the button one, I was like, oh. It reminded me why I have an original love for McLaren Mercedes. I was obsessed with everything they did. I loved that silver car with Mika on the side, and then the button one with the red when they were sponsored by Vodafone, and I was like, oh, bring me back to that era. I loved it. And the original Lewis Hamilton era in McLaren as well, which I liked that they included all of their cars. It was actually the best one for me. I loved it so much. Pity the car actually let me down, but apart from that, I loved it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it so much. It was notable as well that they are the only team that don't have a title sponsor.
Oh, are Chrome not their... Oh, I know what you mean, in their name.
In the name, so but not just in the name. Yes, there was a lot of chrome on the car, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't as in your face as the HP logo, shall we say. So I also kind of like when you look at it from above, it actually looks like some of the side is like a silver chrome, sort of as a nod back to its history with that sort of silvery color. Overall, I liked it. My mother turned around and she was just like, oh, their race suits are a bit weird. Oh no, or was it my husband? One of them said it anyways as we were watching it, that they found the race suits look a bit weird. I think it's that diagonal between the papaya and the black.
It's right around the crotch area. That's what it is. The diagonal goes right across the crotch area, and it just looks a little strange. Were you trying not to say that?
Yeah, pretty much. But overall, the car looks grand.
Yeah, it's fine. Do you have a favorite car? Have you got a favorite car out of all the 10?
That's a really tough question because, from certain angles, I do like the Ferrari look. The Red Bull is always going to be a good old reliable. But I think the Williams, I think it surprised me with their shade change. And I think, again, I just love blue. I think that for me really stood out. And the Kick Sauber, I liked that kind of fade between the luminous green and the black, which we hadn't seen them do before. So I think it was a nice way to kind of contrast the two extremes that they have on the car.
Well, stop the lights here because we're going to agree exactly. Is Kick Sauber for me too, number 2, and that Williams car. I have a little soft spot for Williams. I don't know why it is. I think it's Frank Williams and Claire Williams and all that when they had the trouble. And actually, I like the way they included them in their opening video package, their audio. Yeah, but yeah, it is. And that Duracell battery at the top, it cracks me up every time I see it. And yeah, the blue, the dark blue into the light blue fade at the back is for me. Yeah, it's good. It is very good. Can we talk about the one last cringy thing that they did at the F175 thing when they named every single venue of all the races? And then they had to say one funny line about each one. I was like, this is giving Alan Partridge for me. And it was just didn't need to happen. Didn't need to happen.
Yeah, I was kind of like, look, I understand they were probably doing it because they needed more time to get everything set up for that final reveal of all 10 teams and all 20 drivers on the stage. But it was still like, I'm pretty sure another VT probably would have done the job as well. Asher, look, sometimes people need reminding of these things as to when and what order everything is coming in. Yeah, it was a little... The event as a whole was a bit cringe, but it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, look, I'm glad I didn't spend the money to go, but I'd say the atmosphere would have been great.
Yeah, it did look good. Although my immediate reaction at the end of it was I probably would have been happy with if they had just done that last all 10 drivers or all 20 drivers, all 10 teams on the stage, look at our cars. Oh, look, that took 5 minutes. Great. I would have been happy with that too, I think, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's it's just one of those things of I don't know what I was really expecting.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, oh, so that's what it was. It's more of that's kind of how I feel overall. I was like, oh, okay, so that was the thing. And as two fellow Take That fans,
Yes.
I wonder, were they just like tired from having performed the exact same song at the BAFTAs over the weekend, that the vocals were a bit
They were off.
lacking, shall we say?
Yeah, they weren't great.
Those harmonies for Rule the World were totally off. I don't know whether it's a case of missing a band member now just has changed the balance slightly, but yeah, I don't know. It was disappointing. I've seen them live, like in Dublin, and they were good. Whereas last night, I don't think was reflective of what they are capable of, but I was very, very chuffed with myself for calling that they were going to do Greatest Day.
You did.
Which is, again, the song that they did at the BAFTAs, purely because it is kind of this new trendy techno version, which I absolutely hate.
That was F175 this day next week, so it's Wednesday. We are going to be testing in Bahrain. So all those drivers, and I think nearly every single driver said that they were looking forward to getting back into the actual car and driving around a racetrack. 3 days of testing next Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Then 2 weeks after that, the very first Grand Prix in Melbourne, but on March 7th, and we knew this was going to happen. We had literally put out our last episode, and Drive to Survive dropped the fact they were going to release their announced date, and March 7th is when we're going to get Drive to Survive. Kind of late, only 1 week before the start of the Formula 1 season. You're looking forward to season 7.
Yeah, it was like, we knew it at the time. I literally said, this, like, literally, we're going to put this episode out and they're going to drop the release. And I swear to God, our episode went live around 5 p.m. and the announcement was at 5:05.
Yeah.
You couldn't have timed it more hilariously if we had tried. And then also we had the new F1 trailer, which dropped during the Super Bowl. They showed it at last night's thing. So we'll get more into all of this in our next episode. We're also going to cover the fact that we're going to have an Irish driver in F2 now, which is amazing.
Yes, Alexander Dunn, he is going to be racing for Rodden Motorsport. And actually, I didn't know that he had won the 2022 F4 British Championship, and he was the 2023 GB3 runner-up with High Tack Grand Prix either. I didn't know that about him. I need to learn a lot more about Alex Dunn. I'm probably going to watch a lot more F2 this year than I did last year.
Yeah, well, now that we also have which races are going to have the F2 races literally on the Formula 1 calendar as well, it's going to be easier for fans to actually figure out when to watch them as well. So yeah, I think it's just all gravy for motorsport at the moment, really.
All gravy. I love that. Olivia, I thought this was going to take 20 minutes and we would just, rattle off all these things. When will I ever learn that we just cannot talk for 20 minutes about Formula 1?
No, it's impossible. If we're chatting, we're going to have tangents, we're going to have random fun facts, we're going to have gossip. We're also clearly now having voice notes, so this is great.
I absolutely love it. Emma, you're my new favourite person. Thank you very much for agreeing with me, because not many people do, especially Miss Fahy there, to be fair.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely not. That's why I like you. Right, we better get out of here because, hey, testing is only a week away and I cannot wait.
Yes, and thank you to everybody for listening to our special bonus episode reacting to the event. We'll be back soon. We don't actually have a date set for our next recording as of yet, but there will be lots to talk about for sure. But yeah, thanks, Ciarán.
Thanks, Olivia. Bye-bye.
Bye.